Jen and I have talked on the phone for God knows how many hours over the last few years, really, like about everything and anything. So here's something that has nothing to do with me, and yet I'm like getting annoyed. We're on to
Oh,
a whole new subject, by the way, at this point. Like, we're not even talking about the 5 a.m. club anymore.
I had no
And
idea.
no, of course you wouldn't, right? I didn't even know it was happening. And I think this
For the
is what
record,
we've
you
learned.
sounded genuinely excited for me. Shocked, of course. I'm still shocked. Hey, I'm Jen.
And I'm Suzanne. Today we are talking about the 5 a.m. club. So, friend, if you have ever met my sister, Jen, she is my older sister. And since I have known her, she has always been someone who declared she was a night person, right? The
Yes,
night
night
owl, didn't
owl.
like to wake up early. She would scowl at you in the morning, I remember as a teenager.
Facts.
And so imagine my utter surprise when I'm sitting at my kitchen. So we have like a center island and I'm waiting for my coffee to be made. I'm here in California. My sister's in Texas. So oftentimes I'll talk to her early in the morning, my time. So I'm sitting there waiting for my coffee, smelling like the cappuccino, so excited. My sister's chatting and she says, "Oh, by the way, guess what? I've decided to join the 5 a.m. club." Okay, cue the like screeching brakes. I was like, "I'm sorry, what?" She's like, "Yeah, my husband and I, Jason and I, we're gonna wake up early and we are gonna like hit the gym at 5 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
I'm genuinely so excited for you. I mean, after the getting over the shock, because I'm not gonna lie, it was a shock.
It
My
was a shock to
coffee,
me.
my coffee finally finishes. I grab my coffee, I take a sip to like pull myself together and think, I'm so genuinely excited for you. Like you start
Oh,
explaining to
thanks.
me all the benefits and how you came to this decision. And I know both of us have done so much on working on all those like, oh, I am this or I am this or I'm not
For
this,
sure.
i.e. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not a morning person, all right? And so
Mm-hmm.
in this instance, I was so genuinely excited. And then, and I told you that, and then I had the weirdest, strangest reaction.
Okay.
My body starts getting hot
Oh, jeez.
and I start getting annoyed as you're
Oh,
talking.
no. Oh.
And I mean, friend, Jen and I have talked on the phone for God knows how many hours over the last few years, really, like about everything and anything. So here's something that has nothing to do with me. And yet I'm like getting annoyed. We're on to
Oh,
a whole new subject, by the way, at this point. Like, we're not even talking about the 5 a.m. club anymore.
I had no
And
idea.
no, of course you wouldn't, right? I didn't even know it was happening. And I think this
For the
is what
record,
we've
you
learned.
sounded genuinely excited for me. Shocked, of course. I'm still shocked.
Yes,
But
and I was genuinely excited.
yeah.
And I think what we've learned over time, I've certainly learned, is when I start to have a strange reaction to something, I need to slow it down, look at what's happening and say, okay, Suzanne, what's going on? So I kind of slow down my thoughts. And a lot of this has just happened over time, but I really started looking at what I was thinking during that time. And the first thought that came up was, why aren't you at the gym at 5 a.m., Suzanne? You are a self-proclaimed morning person, and yet
You
you're not
are.
getting up at 5 in the morning. And here comes the comparison, right? And
Mm-hmm.
anyone that has a sibling, especially, I swear comparison just starts. So here I am, I'm thinking, and my brain's saying to me, why aren't you up in the morning? Well, why aren't you working out? And not soon after that, I'm justifying to myself, well, I don't have to go work out in the morning. I work from home. And, you know, when I was a volleyball player in college, we had to get up early every morning. And when I was working, in order to make everything work, to make everyone else happy, I had to get up early in the morning. And I hate going to the gym in the morning. My body doesn't feel good. I have a bad back. I shouldn't have to go to the gym. This is ridiculous. Why is she trying to force me to go to the gym at 5 a.m.? You know what? I don't even need to speak with her about this. this is ridiculous that this is what she's asking of me.
Oh, jeez.
And for anyone, friend, listening, if you can't hear the sarcasm of my voice being like,
Bitter
this is
Betty.
insane. Like, I feel none of these actual things towards my sister. And yet this whole dialogue has now occurred, the internal voice coming up, and it didn't feel good. It left me. And I think that's where maybe that burning sensation, like that just like hot in my neck, irritable feeling. And it was awful. And I hated it. And then I felt like a bad sister.
I was going to say, and then the shame sets in.
Yes. And pretty soon I felt like, oh my gosh, what kind of human being isn't excited for their sister doing this amazing thing for herself with her husband, might I add, which how cool is that? You're working out with your husband in the morning and doing devotionals and all these cool things. Like, what kind of human being am I?
Oh, jeez.
Right?
Speaking of the spiral.
Yeah. And I guess I've done enough of this to know it's normal.
Yeah.
But I didn't feel normal in the moment.
For sure. When did you know it wasn't about me and it was about you? Like, at what point in that cascade of thoughts?
I think it wasn't until the end.
Oh.
I mean, I think it was
fair.
it's like I could see all of my thoughts being like, hey, judging and comparison and being mad. Yeah. And then thinking to myself.
And then the shame.
And the shame. And Suzanne, do you actually feel this way? Like, are those true thoughts you're having?
Right.
Like, are you truly mad at your sister? Does your sister have anything to do with you waking up early in college? Or feeling like when you got to the gym, you know, that smell first thing in the morning and it's super cold and it always just takes my body a long time to warm up.
Mm-hmm.
But I was putting all of that on you. Like, that's when I knew something was amiss.
The villainizer showed up.
Oh my God. Right. Did you hear that? Me being like, can you believe she demands I be at the gym at 5 a.m.?
For the record, just for everyone here listening, I never said like, hey, do you want to work out at 5 a.m. with me? Hey, do you want to be my accountability partner? Hey, I think you should work out at 5 a.m. Said no one ever. Just so we're clear.
Never. Yeah. And that is, to me, the craziness of our thoughts.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
That's why we're talking about these on our podcast, because every person has them.
Yeah. And most people don't share them.
Right? And we might be a little insane.
Yeah, I was going to say, and most people don't share them for the entire globe to listen to in case they wanted to.
But this is how we're going to help people. Because we're going to show people it's okay and that these thoughts are not rational, right?
Yes.
I don't genuinely think that my sister, in saying, guess what? I'm so excited I'm joining the 5 a.m. club. I'm a little nervous. Her being vulnerable to me and excited none of that had anything to do what happened in my head.
No.
And me making you the villain? I mean, to say it out loud, people, I feel horrified. I mean, it's horrifying. And I'm sure someone will take the clip and that's all they'll use is that I think my sister is, this or that.
Yeah.
And no, so let's be real clear. These are the thoughts that ran through my head. And I feel like, but for having these thoughts, I couldn't get to the next place.
Right. I guess what is the next place? How did you come to realize that? I think the hardest part is accepting that you can have those thoughts. There's nothing wrong with you. It's totally normal to have those thoughts, just depending on how your brain works, your past stuff, all of that. I think most people get stuck there. And so I guess I'm curious how, like I said, at what point did you know it wasn't about me? And then I guess the other question now is, and then how did you like flip the script to be on the other side of this? Or like, what did that look like? Or where are you now, actually? Are you still bitter Betty with me?
No. And that's the thing about these inner thoughts or inner dialogue, right? It happens so fast. And I
Yeah.
think you and I both lived for so long not understanding that there were things going on there and that we actually had the power. And this is what's so cool is when you slow it down, you look at them for what they are, you don't give them weight. Like me looking at you, I'm curious about them instead of saying, oh, I'm such a terrible person. It doesn't mean all those thoughts didn't go through my head. But when the
Yeah.
logical version of me slowed down and said, hey, here are all the thoughts. Are any of them true? Like it gives me an opportunity to really discover what's true and what's not and where it's coming
Right.
from.
Right.
And so that's what I felt like when after I realized I was villainizing you, that's when it
Mm-hmm.
stopped, right? That's when I realized, oh, wait a minute. Something's wrong here. Something's amiss.
Yeah. Yeah.
And almost within that time frame, I noticed something was amiss. But oh, bye as my son goes to school.
My daughter just
But
called for anyone who heard that coming in. So just in case anyone was wondering if we're actual moms,
yes,
hello.
in our cars. Yes, we
My
are
daughter
in our
wants $10
cars.
for a shirt sold at school, just so we could keep it real up in here.
Yes, so important. I must have it, Mom. I must have it.
Right now, send me the money, Apple Cash, please. Please, Mom.
Yeah, but I mean, what was interesting though is I could have that conversation with you. I knew something was up, but it probably took me another week later where it was still bugging me, where I thought to myself, what was that all about?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what it is about that. There's a time period where almost
Like a cool down, having some space from
maybe,
it.
yeah.
I do think time, like they say time heals all wounds, but I think if you're, I guess I don't know if it's a question or a statement, but I've noticed for me that when you give it some time and you're not still feeding it the bad. So I think the difference is you
Mm.
stopped feeding the negative and you no longer accepted the thoughts that were going through your mind. And then you had the time. So the time wasn't more time filling it with negative thoughts. That's when the problem like grows.
All I can picture in my head is like the sourdough feeder. Like, you know,
Yeah,
when you feed it and it gets bigger and bigger.
it's bubbling up for sure, which you're going to start doing sourdough, but that's another topic.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Yes, I would say because you had the space without adding to it, then like the emotion, as always, I don't know if you like you tell your kids just sleep on it, you're going to feel better in the morning. The reality is 9 times out of 10, maybe 8 times out of 10 as adults, you do feel better.
Yeah.
Because like all of the activated nervous system calms down.
Yeah.
And then you have some space from it. And so then I think that's when you were like, oh, maybe it's time for me to revisit. I don't know. Is that true?
No, I think that's
or
actually, yeah, no, I think that's actually very true. If it also, for me, what I've learned, if it keeps coming up
mm-hmm.
and it doesn't come up in the phrase of, oh, Jen's joining the 5 a.m. club, it comes up with my voice will start in with, well, why aren't you getting up at 5 a.m. to work out?
Okay.
And so that's where mine
The
comes in. So
negative
I'll have
self-talk
to,
keeps coming up. Okay.
yes. So I have to
Okay.
revisit it to
Okay.
say, and then I go back to sometimes what that originating thought was, or that originating feeling that felt strange. And in this case, it was our conversation. And so once I had an opportunity to look at my thoughts and think, okay, are any of those true? Like what has validity, what doesn't? It's true. My body hurts early in the morning.
Yeah.
And so that's not something I don't want to go to the gym at 5 a.m. and I don't have to
Right.
anymore. And that's the other thing. Like in my prior lives, I didn't have a choice.
Right.
And so now I do. So it's like, what if you woke up at 5 a.m.? And so I
To accomplish
started,
something else. Yeah.
yes, I started being
Okay.
super inspired with you. And now I get up at 5 a.m. I do all my things in the
Oh.
morning, which I hadn't told you. I was
Okay.
waiting to share on the
Oh,
podcast
ooh
with
la
you.
la. Okay. Yep. Okay.
And I feel great. And then I still work out at my normal time, but I achieve the most in the morning and I feel my best early in the morning. So waking up at 5
Mm-hmm.
is really not that big of a deal for me. And that's the empowerment that I
Mm-hmm.
find, right? So I start with the discovery and then pretty soon it's that perspective shift of, well, wait a minute, Suzanne, this has nothing to do with your sister. This has you looking at a certain situation and how does it apply to you? And would it feel good to wake up at 5 in the morning? And that's the empowerment of now I can make a decision as an adult and not based on the insane thoughts that oftentimes
Mm-hmm.
go through my head.
Yeah. So would you say it was like all the negative wasn't really about the working out? Like, this is what I'm hearing you say, but you need to answer it.
Sure.
It was really about the resistance because something in you knew that you wanted to make, or that you saw an opportunity for like a 5 a.m. priority. Because for me, the priority was the devotional and working out with Jason and having it done for my day, because it's something that I've struggled with to get my workout in. So it felt like if I do this, basically it was like more of a priority, like priority to put my faith and then my workout first, or like my health. And for you, it didn't necessarily mean workout was the priority, because you are getting your workout in, right? But your priority was, but I could be waking up at 5 a.m. because it's easy for me, or, you're a morning person, and you could be giving yourself that priority. And was it the resistance or like the jealousy, or was that what was coming up? Like at the very end, once you shook it all? Or do you really think it was about like the old being forced to work out,
I think it's
or a little bit of both?
multifaceted. And
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
that's what gets complicated about all this
Yeah.
is I don't feel good first in the morning. So there's absolute
That's a
resistance to
fact.
that.
For
It
sure.
was also, we're constantly seeing other people do something, and it's
Of
the same
course.
comparison. When you said
Yeah.
jealousy at first, I was like, oh no. And then I was like, oh no, there's a little bit of that too. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I want to be the best person I am. Am I doing that now? And then
Right.
that's when it came through of, if it's really pretty easy for me to wake up at 5 a.m. And I have now noticed, especially since I went from being a full-time attorney to staying at home mom to now building
Uh-huh.
my own business,
Uh-huh.
I'm really being able to structure how I want to run my business. And so
Instead of being forced into a structure.
I have choice. And so now, and I notice as the day progresses, I'm tired. I get tired.
Mm-hmm.
Like my golden time is in the morning. So I thought to myself, actually, I can take this opportunity to wake up early and be revving and raring to go in the day. And that's actually what's going to suit me best for
Yeah.
now. I mean, we'll see.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of the process of that. And that's what led from me just being curious about that crazy reaction. Because let's be honest, anyone just listening to me, you probably think I'm a crazy person. But if you look at your own thoughts and you slow your own thoughts down, we all have them. And the more you start
Yes.
looking, the more you
Yes.
find them, they're there. And that's why we're doing this. So you can hear our crazy and know you're not alone, and that you can start discovering, shifting your perspective and empowering yourself. And that's what we're here to do.
For sure. And I would say to the listeners, when was the last time you had a strong reaction to something? And I'm just leaving it super vague, because the last time you had a weird reaction. Like, right now, you don't have to think about it. You might be ashamed, or all the things we talked about, but So just dive into it. Nobody has to know you're diving into it. It's just between you and the reaction.
Yeah. And that's the best part of this healing stuff. You just get to decide. You get to do the work, and no one else has to know about it. If you want to talk about it, Jen and I are always here.
Yes, for sure.
Send us a DM, anything you want to do. Like we're here. But if you just want to start working, and I think both Jen and I did that initially, is we just did it on our own. It wasn't until we actually started talking our crazy out loud to each other that we realized, oh, it's not so crazy. Then we started talking to our friends and girlfriends and realized, oh no, everyone does this. And that's why we're doing this show. So
being vulnerable.
So that's it for today.
Yes, we hope you discovered something in our story.
See you next time. Same place, same sisterhood. Bye.